I feel it in the name. Shellycoat, run away. I cry in I feel it in the name.
Hello and welcome to Demigods and Monsters, the series where I take an aspect of British mythology, legend or folklore, illustrate it and tell you about it. Today we're going to be looking at the Shellycoat, a water spirit found in the Scottish borders, and why it's never a good idea to mess with the supernatural, even if you don't actually believe in it. Maybe even especially then. Terrible night. You got that right. It's coming down all wives and pike staves. Well, come dry yourself off by the fire. You'll be wanting your usual. Make it a half tonight. The missus will be waiting up for me at home. Right you are. Where's your pal tonight anyway? The English lad. You mean Dick? He's in the hospital. Had a run-in with old Shellycoat. Away with you. Shellycoat is just an old wives' tale. That's what Dick said and all. And look what happened to him. It happened that there was a party down the Foul Anchor, and the lads got talking about ghosts and goblins and the like. Before long, talk turned to old Shellycoat herself. And English Dick, being something of a sceptical sort, loudly declared that he didn't believe in such nonsense, so there. More than that, he was willing to wager a gallon of wine that he would dance around the Shellycoat stone, that place where she hides her coat, taunting the spirit. And he claimed nothing bad would come of it because Shellycoat does not exist. Well, at first, not a man among us would accept the wager. Getting mixed up with the supernatural is not to be taken lightly. But the drink was flowing and common sense less so. And eventually, 3 of the men present said they would take Dick's bet. And away we went, up towards the stone to see the challenge carried out. Well, at least we would have. But the night was cold, and with cold comes sobriety and reason. And as we came to the old bridge, we parted ways, wanting no part in whatever was coming next. Dick, on the other hand, was brimming with the confidence of the foolish. He shook the hands of each of us in turn, and said that he would see us back down the anchor inside half an hour to claim his prize. Well, we returned to warmth and refreshment of the pub and we waited. And waited. An hour passed, then 2. We were still gathered in the anchor at midnight, still waiting for English Dick to reappear. We thought of going looking for him, but not one among us wanted to brave the Shellycoat in the depth of the night. So instead we agreed to further our acquaintance with the landlord's cellar until first light. At which point, those of us still able to stand made our way back up the hill in search of Dick. We found him lying by the Shellycoat stone, insensible but alive. His bones were broken and he was covered in severe bruises, and we carried him back to the anchor and summoned a doctor to see to him. At length he was transferred to the hospital, where, when he regained consciousness, he was able to share his story. This is what he had to say. After I left you at the old bridge, I started having second thoughts. After all, what if there really was such a thing as a Shellycoat? I even considered just turning around, returning to the anchor and claiming I had done the deed. But honour would not permit me to lie, so after a few moments of hesitation, on I went. I saw the stone up ahead. All was quiet, bar the wind coming in from the bay. Summoning up my courage, I clambered up onto the stone, and I danced a little jig on top of it. There, I thought to myself, no one can doubt my courage now. And it was at that point that I was startled by a noise so terrible that I fell from the stone. It sounded as if all of the shells in this here country had been gathered together and hurled against this one spot, the spot on which I had been standing. And then it stopped, just as suddenly as it had began. And I saw the Shellycoat towering over me. Giant she was, long of limb and tooth, and with a wickedness in her eyes, her cloak of shells billowing around her. In a voice of surprising sweetness, she demanded why I had summoned her, why I had taunted her, why I had desecrated her sacred stone. She did not give me a chance to reply, though, instead seizing me by the shoulders and carrying me aloft. And then we were flying, sailing through the air in the direction of the island. And all around us those dreadful shells rattled and clattered in a way that made my very bones shake. In no time at all, we reached the island, and the Shellycoat set me down on its highest peak. The Shellycoat threw back her head and laughed, a blood-curdling noise that echoed all the way from the opposite shore. Beneath me, the earth erupted, and I was sent tumbling down the slope, not slowing until I splashed into the sea. Too weak to resist, I might well have drowned, had Shellycoat herself not fished me out of the water and carried me back to dry land and up to the summit. This process was repeated again and again, the earth rising up beneath me, my body breaking against the rocks as I tumbled down the peak and coming to rest in a sodden heap in the sea. And again, the Shellycoat retrieved me, only so I could be subjected to the same torture anew. Finally, as first light appeared in the east, the Shellycoat carried me back into the air and back towards the mainland. Once we were directly above the Shellycoat stone, she dropped me. I felt myself accelerating downwards, helpless, until I broke my back against the rock. And that's the last thing I remember before waking up in this here hospital bed.
Surely you don't believe that there tale, Archie? He said it himself. He danced on top of the stone and fell. He probably just hit his head, and that's the end of it.
Maybe, maybe not. But if you're so sure of yourself, why don't you go dance a jig on the stone? As for me, I should be heading along home before I'm missed. Old Shellycoat may be frightening, but she has nothing on the wife. And that's the tale of the Shellycoat. If you enjoyed this story, please do all the YouTube things, like, share, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for listening, and until next time, take care of yourselves, and try not to upset any of the fair folk.